Consider for a moment our shrinking Earth, the technology of our space age. It seems our lives and our planet are crowding wilderness and the natural experience out. But consider again, there are still wild destinations. With host Rafael Lima, Wild Destinations will take you on an hour-long adventure to some of the most remote areas of the world.
The Mayan capital was called Sunantinich. Buried deep in the jungles of Central America, it has stood on this mountaintop since the time of Christ. 2,000 years ago, a Mayan civilization rose up around its limestone walls and created a culture with advanced mathematics, astronomy, and human sacrifice. Today it stands, an empty skeleton of a body long since buried. Sunantinich is located almost directly on the Guatemalan-Belize border. One of the most inaccessible of ruins, the mountain roads that lead to it are often impassable to anything but four-wheel drive vehicles. After several hours of roads like this one, we crossed a river on an ancient hand-cranked ferry. Then more bone-jarring roads. Then I arrived. Walking amidst these ruins, you walk backwards in time. The same stone steps I was taking, the peasant victims who would be sacrificed to Mayan gods had walked. What thoughts had run through their minds on these final steps? At the first level of the temple, I met Roberto Ponti, a local guide. He's a direct descendant of the Mayans who lived at Sunantinich.
Originally, we believe that the carvings went all the way around the main temple at the same level. And we believe that it may have been the roof comb of that particular layer.
Ponti took me to the top of the ruin where sacrifices had occurred. We walked through a maze of steps and levels to emerge at the uppermost platform.
This is absolutely incredible up here.
From here, you could see the surrounding hills and the courtyard where hundreds of peasants had once gathered to witness the bloody rituals. A priest with a ceremonial knife would await the victim on the upper level, calling ancient gods. Then the victim would be placed on his back on a stone altar, and the knife plunged into his chest, and his heart cut out in one quick slash.
We will meet the living legacies of some of these civilizations who still maintain traditions dating back to their primitive ancestry.
In one village near Sunantinich live many Mayan descendants. One, Don Ponti, a relative of the guide Roberto, is a Mayan priest who still practices some of these rituals. And he allowed our cameras to tape, for the first time ever, a Mayan bloodletting ritual.
He says that these are used to cure different kinds of ailments. This is the traditional Mayan healing.
What you're about to see may be graphic, but it is authentic and never before seen on television. Don Ponti uses stingray barbs as probes to jab first a vein, then an artery.
Don Ponti, explícame lo que es.
From the blood, he's able to diagnose illness and prescribe traditional healing. The child was not at all frightened and was not in pain. These Mayan children were subject to treatments like these since childhood.
We'll see firsthand surviving descendants of tribes who have remained unchanged for thousands of years in the jungles of Papua New Guinea. Our wild destination cameras will trek from the heat of desert valleys in Venezuela
The heat of the desert sand radiates right through the soles of your shoes. It surrounds you in an intense, dry, baking heat. Nothing survives long here without water. What animals do exist on these dunes are underground, waiting for the coolness of night.
to the bitter cold tops of the Andes Mountains.
At an elevation of over 3,000 meters, I found myself short of breath and lightheaded. From this vantage point, the view was breathtaking. We were literally on top of the world.
From tranquil river safaris in the Amazon
These people have hunted this way for hundreds of years. Their blowguns are handed down from father to son for generations. The poisons used on the tips of the darts, curare, is made from poisonous frogs, scorpion, snake venom, and toxic roots, and is still one of the deadliest on Earth.
to wild whitewater raft rides in Costa Rica. Working with leading environmentalists and naturalists, we will experience the thrill of stalking and photographing wild animals.
And finally, after miles of walking in humid, stifling heat and insects, we saw a patch of orange against green.
I saw some movement over there. Where? Right there between those two bushes. See it? See an orange?
Palmettos there.
Orange color.
I found myself holding my breath as I looked at this huge, regal animal quietly ignoring us only a few dozen yards away from us. Although they usually leave human beings alone, there was always a chance this one could turn and charge with lightning speed. We tried to remain as quiet as possible, though the big cats didn't seem to mind our presence.
Nobody ever sees jaguar during the day. It's one of these rare experiences. Back in the bush in the coxcomb, these animals, we just got in the right direction from the wind, and they just don't know we're here.
Would they feed at night and then perhaps rest during the day, and that's why they're laying around under?
Yeah, just like house cats, they spend most of their time sleeping.
But unlike house cats, he's a lethal killer. His name means animal that can kill with one bite. In this jungle, everything fears him, and he fears nothing. Descended from the saber-toothed tiger, he can crush skulls with his powerful jaws and bring down prey twice his size with huge forepaws. Man is his only enemy, and he has hunted the jaguar for his fur, almost to extinction.
Our cameras will journey below the surface as well as above, bringing you the sights and sounds of exotic reefs. A cannon from a Spanish galleon can weigh from 2 to 3 tons. It is dead iron weight, seemingly rooted to the bottom. Bringing it to the surface is a difficult and dangerous job. The first matter of business is to dig by hand holes underneath the cannon for straps, which will eventually pull it free. The work is tiring and slow. Working with McCutcheon, Raphael gets a first-hand look at the difficulties of treasure diving.
As I began digging under the cannon, there was just sand. As I dug deeper, the sand turned to jagged coral rock, which cut my hands. The more sand and rock we fanned out, the more sand and rock would fall back into the hole. sand, and sediment floated in clouds around us, clogging our regulators, making an already difficult job of breathing even harder.
After considerable effort, the cannon is rigged and ready for the ship's winches and cranes. First, airbags must deliver it to the surface. Extreme caution must be used by the divers since the weight of the cannon, supported by straps and shackles, can at any moment swing free, knocking a diver unconscious, or can fall back to the ocean floor, trapping a diver on the bottom. The ship's crane begins winching the massive iron relic on board. Sledgehammers and chisels remove hundreds of years of coral and hardened sediment. With every hit from the sledgehammer, the cannon's coral coat reveals more of a gun in surprisingly good condition.
All right, watch your camera, Ken.
Cannonballs will if you get the fused one.
Watch your head.
The cannon must be watered down constantly. Once in contact with the air, it begins to rust and deteriorate at an incredibly rapid rate. About an hour later, the almost pristine cannon is chipped away from its coral shroud. The muzzle of a gun that once broadsided pirates and marauding sailing ships now rests aboard the treasure quest, an exhumed relic of a time gone by. Finding the cannon meant we were in a promising portion of the reef. The next day, an underwater dredge would be used to sift the bottom in search of the treasure we all hoped lay waiting on the ocean floor. By the end of our Wild Destination program, you will be informed, moved, thrilled, and entertained. And you will have visited one of the last remaining wild destinations on Earth.